Hello, everyone. This is Charlie Pankey, Sierra Now Podcast. Thank you for joining us again here today. We hope the Sierra is within your sights. Beautiful bluebird sky here in the Carson Valley, and the mountains are ready to be played in. So we hope that you're making trips and plans. And I know I just did my first backpacking permit on recreation.gov this weekend, just getting ready for summer. But the Sierra is full of playground opportunities, and we're here again today, which is an excellent show. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. If you like national parks, if you like going places without a lot of crowds, if you like discovering new things, today this show is for you. And my guest today, David Cicirelli, hopefully I said that right,
You
Cicirelli,
got it.
from Lakes.com. David is the founder and CEO of Lake.com, and it's a new platform, if you will, for the travel industry for finding homes and vacation opportunities around bodies of water. So if you like lakes and getting outdoors and being around the great outdoors, this might be a new platform for you to check out. David's also, he's been on travelandleisure.com, Wall Street Journal. He's got some reports on national parks today we're going to be talking about and just diving into the outdoors. So David, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And I'm doing better now that we're both here, same place, same time.
Great. I like that. I saw your report on the national parks. That's what kind of got us, talking together and going that. When I saw Lake.com, that fascinated me. Tell me a little bit about your story there and what this new platform is for us all.
Sure. Well, I'm a longtime entrepreneur, and I love these single dictionary word domain names. I've started a few companies in my tenure, but this one in particular is kind of close to home. I grew up on Lake Superior, one of the Great Lakes.
Oh, okay.
And so I've spent a lot of time around water, all the summer camps and so forth, always included water. So when it came time to, during the pandemic, like so many people, had the opportunity to reevaluate our priorities with my dear wife and kids and I. And like so many others, we ended up getting a puppy. Her name's Honey, a golden retriever.
I love it.
And we also had saved up some money over the years and really set about saying now was the time that we wanted to realize our own dream of owning a lake house. So we took a few months to look at all the real estate websites, and we actually saw a few that were in the Muskoka region of Ontario, Canada. And for those of you listening and watching who might not be familiar with it, it's considered the cottage country of Canada. So many cottages, they're honestly mansions, 10,000 square feet and up. They're built by the steel barons in the late 1800s, and they've been incredibly, maintained and restored. It has the oldest still running steam operated ship in all of North America. It's just a wonderful place. So in the dead of winter, we put forward an offer. You couldn't even see the ground. It was covered in snow, and the lake was frozen. And with a bit of negotiation, we ended up getting our dream home. So over the next couple summers, Charlie, we spent a lot of time up there at the cottage, touring around the lake and the water, walking up and down the road of our peninsula. I noticed so many of these places were vacant. And I double checked with the trades, people that we work with, plumbers, electrician, and arborist. And sure enough, they, validated this concept or this intuition that a lot of the people, they visited infrequently, or they just, kind of came up once a year.
Yes.
And so we also hosted our own family reunions on both sides of the family. People would come to the cottage, and when we filled, I think, 20 people staying at our place. But after that, the only place around was the local hotel. So it definitely felt like there was a need. But I know what you're probably thinking. Well, is he not aware that Airbnb and Vrbo exist?
They do.
Well, at least in this market, I sensed that there was an opportunity. So I read every Airbnb shareholder letter I could get my hands on. And I came across two really important stats. First, that half of all vacation rentals are booked in rural areas, which kind of makes sense. People from the city want to get out of the city and go to the mountains and go to the lake. I'm sure. Who do you kind of find is touring and visiting the Sierras?
It's the city. It's San Francisco, Sacramento, Fresno, Los Angeles coming to the mountains and playing,
Right.
right? So
Exactly. Just want to breathe some fresh air, get some great pictures, stretch the legs and so forth. So that was kind of the first data point. The other one was kind of describing what the top 3 types of stays were, kind of the types of like where the properties were.
Sure.
And
Okay.
it was beach homes, number one. Probably all the people from the north trying to go south and get onto the beach. But it was mountain cabins and lake houses. I thought, wow, okay, well, putting these 2 data points together, and vacation rentals is an $80 billion global market. It was one that, as I said, entrepreneur at heart, I wanted to kind of set out to build. So I looked at a lot of names to kind of build to domain names for the website. And lake.com was previously owned by a publicly traded company that was, they owned it for 25 years, believe it or not, just from an acquisition from years and years ago. They were looking to sell it for a pretty penny. Don't get me wrong, because it's 4 letters, but we ended up getting a great deal. And over the last year, with my co-founder and dear wife, as well as a small team, we've been building this platform, starting off with over 200 travel guides for lakeside destinations, national and state parks, whenever we can get contributions from local tourism boards or people within the area that can kind of really round out those articles. So it's been a challenging year doing a startup, but one that's really showing great promise so far, and I think promise for years to come.
Fantastic. Well, here in the Sierra, we have lots of lake community opportunities, and I know that as you grow, this will be an area that you guys take a look at. We got Lake Tahoe, Lake Almanor here, Bass Lake, Mammoth Lakes, lots of different lake communities, if you will. And
Absolutely.
actually, we have fascinating here in the Sierra that you'll learn. We have some lakes that have these, I call them the 99-year Forest Service cabins, that they've got these leases from the government, and they have cabins on these lakes that no one can rent or anything. They're like personal family cabins for like 99-year leases. And it's quite a fascinating thing, because I didn't see those in Oregon where I grew up at. I see them here all in the Sierra quite a bit. It's quite a fascinating fact. So
I think that, probably, I'm not sure when they would have started that, but probably at the turn of the previous century or early 1900s. Similar situation in Canada. The land was given away, but you had to kind of, it was probably an honor agreement of somehow, but you had to quote unquote work the land.
Exactly.
Clearing trees and maintaining it. And same thing with like, geologist rights. And as long as you put in so many hours per year, you can kind of, pursue certain operations on the land. So
exactly.
I wasn't aware of that phenomenon still existing, but they probably have beautiful views and wouldn't trade it for the world.
Oh, absolutely. They all got hiking trails near them. Oh, those are hikers again.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Dave, if you don't mind, since we only have a half-hour show, I want to kind of jump to your reports. You have a degree from Harvard, and you're obviously big into research. You got just done doing some reports on national parks, and the one that caught my attention was least visited national parks, across the country, which I know we're going to have things like, the Cascade National Park in Washington and stuff. But our show really focuses on the Sierra, and several of our national parks in California or really close to the Sierra are actually on that list. There was Lassen. I saw Great Basin was on that. That's actually in Nevada, but definitely within drive for all of our readers.
Yeah, and Kings as well.
Kings Canyon. Kings Canyon shocked me, actually. It's on that list. I was there last year. What a beautiful drive down that canyon. But then when I thought about that, I went there in June. We saw tons of people in Sequoia, and we saw almost nobody in Kings Canyon. So it's like,
right.
Is it really that just visited that infrequent from the traveler? That's quite fascinating.
Yeah. So it's there's, visitors is one of the factors. But, just zooming out briefly, we found that, doing research and publishing these studies on underrated travel destinations has actually been a great way to draw attention to those destinations, places that people might not immediately think of, especially if you want to avoid the crowds, as I've heard you say on previous shows and at the top of this one as well too. And as well as kind of publishing, right. And as well, publishing these studies brings awareness to lake.com as well. So we did a study on what we call the most underrated So not necessarily the least visited, but most underrated. And how we came up with that was an index, if you will. So we looked at all the visitor data from the National Park Service, because it's a government operation. It's all that data is available. So the total number of visitors, and we also kind of buddied that up with the Google reviews. So the higher the score, the better. And so we looked at this concept called reviews to visitor ratio. So for Lassen, it was 3,800 reviews and 420,000 visitors. So it gave a ratio of 108. And then for Kings, which ranked just a little bit lower on the list, but still in the top 10 of all national parks, there was 6,100 reviews and 640,000 visitors. So it had a ratio of 105. So we factored that into the index and kind of out came the results. It was purely a quantitative study, but nonetheless, I think given the size of, millions of people visiting all the national parks, it gives a bit of an insight into, ones that maybe don't get as many visitors, but when people go, they feel compelled to leave a review on Google. So it sounds like some of those surprised you.
They only surprised me because I didn't expect anything on California to be on the list, to be honest with you. Again, because, we have so many national parks here in the Sierra. I actually live in the Nevada side of the Sierra Range by Lake Tahoe. But I go to Yosemite all the time. So obviously that's highly, people know it all the time. But I just got back from snowshoeing on Lassen 2 weeks ago up there in the middle of winter. It's one of my favorite places to snowshoe in the wintertime when the crowds are really down, right? There's hardly anybody there. Backcountry skiers and snowshoers. And I love Lassen. And then Kings Canyon, that's such a unique park because it is a one road in, and most of the park is actually in the wilderness. Right. So it's mostly backpackers. The sightseers come in, they see the canyons and the rivers, the caves. It's quite beautiful there. But then what's happening is they're all going into the backcountry. And I just never think about how few people actually do that, because I love doing it so much.
So probably one of these situations where the parking lot is kind of full, but you never see any people, right?
Never, exactly.
They park the car and then backcountry, hike it in.
Yep. I remember last year we drove down the bottom of Kings Canyon. It was almost the end of June. We were going backpacking the next day to Longs Lake, which is about a 12-mile hike back into the wilderness over Silman Pass. And we parked and we walked down a trail for several miles, saw one person, came back and made dinner on the tailgate. And we saw a couple of cars come down and spit like we were at the end of the road. So they, came and kind of looked at the mountain and spun around and went back up the mountain. Right. And the campgrounds weren't open down there. So there was definitely less crowds at that point. It was kind of that early season. But talk about a place where you could, literally walk 15 feet off the highway and just be alone. It was quite a cool experience. And I don't know if it's like that in July and August. I'm sure it's quite busy, but it was very pretty. And I hadn't been down there because I think they compare it to Yosemite Valley down there. You get down there, it's kind of a mini Yosemite Valley where you got the Muir Peak and these big, granite slabs that come flying out of the valley right next to the rivers. So it's quite a beautiful sight to see. So
a lot of rock climbing too, I would imagine.
I assume so. I'm not a big climber, but there's definitely those faces where I can see the rock climbers enjoying it. So the backpacking, the ridges you go over, the views that you get in the backcountry are stunning. One of the guys I saw was up on I want to call it Panoramic Point, I believe what they call it, right as you do in the park. And I met an old timer up there, and he was explaining, pointing out, he goes, if you head just that way, that's one of the least visited places in the Sierra because it's so hard to get into, right? So, even backpackers, it's just hard to get in there. But so if you get back there, you're not going to see anybody. It's that's fascinating. You go that way, you get a few more people. So those old timers. The park that surprised me, and this is not in the Sierra, the park that surprised me most in your list was Redwood National Park. I thought that because that is way underrated in my opinion, but I just felt like that's got to be visited by a lot of people. And then I started thinking in my head going, last time I was there wasn't that many people there either. So, so maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like it's so easy to get to on the coastline of California. So
Right. Kind of a short drive, just boot straight up from San Francisco.
Yeah. So on your list, it doesn't have to stay in the Sierra. What surprised you most on that list? What caught your eye that just went, kind of shocked you?
Well, one was even just kind of the number one was North Cascades in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think there's a couple things of like they needed to be remote, but
Yep.
aside from uh, Isle Royal was another one. It was second. It's completely on an island on Lake Superior, so that's one where we drove from around the Lake Superior a number of times. So I'd never visited it, but I
Mm-hmm.
remember seeing all the signs, and I thought, well, okay, it's probably a pretty unique experience. Like you have to get out there somehow. So either a ferry or a private charter of some kind. So
Yeah.
those were, and there was a few, of course, in Alaska as well too. Gates of the Arctic. I mean, if you can get there, yeah, it's going
Very
to be
remote.
probably a pretty
Yeah.
amazing experience. It's just the number of people who visited were 11,000 on the year compared to, we just talked about Kings Canyon, 600,000. So
Yeah.
if you want that remote experience, there's definitely tours and operators that can provide that.
A really quick question on your study, and this is just from a curious mind. I wonder if there's a comparison between Google reviews, a number of Google reviews, for example, compared to like the number of Instagram posts of an area. You know what I mean? So because social media it changes so often. I wonder how many people actually go do the Google review versus write a blog post or do a story on.
Well, I'm not sure if you meant to do this, but it's actually we actually used Instagram hashtags as another. As another study, not for national parks, but it was the most picturesque lakes in North America.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
So we just looked at, and actually Lake Tahoe came out on top, purely counting how many times that Lake Tahoe hashtag was used.
Yeah.
And it was just by far and away. It's the most, besides it's the most kind of like true destination. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's lots of people that live in Chicago right on Lake Michigan, but you're not taking photos of Lake Michigan because you live there. You're not kind of visiting. You might do the hashtag Chicago, but not Lake Michigan. Same thing with Lake Ontario is where Toronto is. It was up there, but Lake Tahoe kind of took the crown on that one. So yeah, we try to use different data sources whenever possible to round that out. But yeah, good idea. Really Maybe cool. We'll do that for national parks.
No, that's really interesting. I actually saw that study last summer when it came out. The Lake Tahoe I think it was last summer I saw it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't shock me. No, obviously Lake Tahoe, the jewel of Sierra. I mean, it's like I said, huge destination lake. It's like Crater Lake, if you will, as far as a lake, but actually a spot where tourists can stay and enjoy it.
For sure. And it's a year-round, kind of four seasons lake, which there aren't always. You mentioned Crater Lake, Charlie, and I wanted to, if I can, just kind of pick up very quickly one other study that we did around stargazing. Is that okay?
Actually, that's where I want to go next because I'm a big stargazing fan, and I know there's plenty of places up here in the mountains with Lassen, Crater Lake. Go ahead. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I mean, you'd mentioned Crater Lake, which took the top spot, but this is really because we identified this whole travel trend around astro tourism was kind of the label that's been given on it. To such degree that I saw there's a big write-up on National Geographic about how to take photos of the night sky, kind of just for the average person out there. And so, people want to see this kind of natural phenomenon in the sky. Also because it's somewhat of a shared experience. I don't know, I'm sure you remember last year, the eclipse.
Yep.
And one of the best places on the planet to watch it was Niagara Falls. So that's kind of right near where we are. And I wasn't at Niagara Falls, but I was in the area, and the sky went dark. The street lights turned on automatically, kind of car lights. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. And I watched a video afterwards of the people at Niagara Falls, and they were just oohing and awing and cheering together. So this kind of like watching a natural phenomenon in the sky is really this collective experience. So
we had the aurora lights.
Lights
here, the aurora lights were seen down here in the Sierra last year, and it was so big because that's just something that we don't see this far down south.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal to watch those lights dance across the sky and they're pink.
Yeah. Usually you have to go up to, definitely Northern Canada, the Northwest Territories to catch those. And so I think kind of the next closest thing is stargazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, you don't have to wait or travel as far or wait 80 years from some kind of comet or cosmic
Yeah.
events. There's even for those who might be unaware, dedicated dark sky reserves. There's
Mm-hmm.
one by our cottage in Ontario. They're really all over the place, and
We have
but
several
I
right here
think
in
if you're not
Nevada and the
going,
Sierra. Yeah.
yeah, is there a few that that you're aware of that maybe
Yeah,
other
so yeah,
people?
we got Death Valley is designated Lassen Volcanic National Park's designated area, and then in northern Nevada, right on the border of California, Nevada, it's actually designated as one of the darkest places on Earth.
Wow.
It's a desert road, so it's not really an easy map to get to, but it's pretty remote. And that
Yeah,
Crater Lake doesn't surprise me. I grew up around Crater Lake, actually, very close to Crater Lake,
you'd
and
mentioned that. Grew up
the
in Oregon. Yeah.
yeah, the skies, you just walk out your back door, it's you just taken for granted because it just stars everywhere, right? And even here in the Sierra, sometimes I go, you only have to drive about 5 miles out of town, and it's like, wow, look how dark that sky is, and there's lights
Yeah.
blooming everywhere. It's pretty cool. So
So there's apparently and kind of we learned this. I learned this as we were pursuing this study that
mhm.
the kind of percentage of stars that are visible,
Okay.
and Crater Lake in particular had 98.6% of the stars kind of in the sky were visible,
Yeah.
and that combined with the average light pollution ratio is measured at 0.03. So you kind of have these like how many can you see and just generally kind of clear skies plus very low light pollution. And
Yeah, I
that's
like
why,
that.
as you say, national parks were great. Lassen ranked 10th on the list.
Yep.
Sequoia National Park was 28th, and Yosemite was 30th, Kings
Hmm.
Canyon 35th. So they're definitely, we went through I think there's 64 national parks. Of course, there's
Cool.
national forests and state parks as well too, but we just went with the
Yeah.
national park data.
Yeah, if you've never been to Crater Lake, for any of our listeners, I grown up there. What's unique about Crater Lake is the drive and the camping and everything is up on the rim. So you're actually on
Yes.
top of this old volcano. The lake's down below you, but the tree line there is actually a little bit below you as well. You're kind of at the top of it, if you will. So you're
Yeah.
sitting there at the rim and you're looking straight up. There's nothing,
There's
and
nothing in between you. Yeah.
yeah, the closest city is Klamath Falls, maybe Medford on one side, and those are really small metros, so they don't put out a lot of light pollution in those areas, and they're both over an hour away. So you're talking
Wow.
about the nearest city light pollution, easily probably an hour plus. So you're
Right.
really sitting above everything, looking across the Cascade. You got Diamond Peak's probably the biggest thing you probably see in the horizon, actually. So it's a stunning area to be at nighttime, absolutely. So
Amazing.
on a kind of like when you go to Yosemite, there's a lot of stars in Yosemite, right? But you're in this canyon wall that's being lit by all the cabins and stuff. So
Yes.
your peripheral isn't as wide,
Yeah.
and that's why
And the
Crater
light's
Lake's so
probably bouncing off it and reflecting, just like how
yeah,
sound, kind of you have that echo effect. It's going to do
yeah,
the same thing with light.
yeah. I would envision Crater Lake's kind of like being on top of Mount Whitney. If you're
Okay.
on Mount Whitney for stars, right? Because you're
Yeah.
so far above the light pollution below, it's just you in the sky, really. I've never been on Mount Whitney and the stars. Like, if you've been there, send me a comment down below. Like to get your name.
Yeah.
That'd be a really cool picture to see. But you're just talking about a world where the light is just filtered differently. So
Amazing.
and that lake's beautiful. That's just a beautiful drive and place to be at.
So we chatted about not being around people, but also not being around light or any other kind of light pollution.
My love language, all of it right there. That's I want to get out into the wilderness and be out in the stars. And I actually had a light phenomenon. This is kind of off topic a little bit, but we backpacked in Yosemite last fall. My son and I, 40 miles from Twilight Meadows to the valley, and we stayed a night at Bernice Lake, which is, I don't know, maybe 11, 10 miles off of the nearest road, back in the wilderness, right in this range. And the sky was so clear that night, and Bernice is such a clear water lake. We walked down a lakeshore, and it was one of the first times I'd ever been able to see the stars perfectly reflected in a lake where I couldn't
Oh,
tell if
wow.
I stepped another foot in the water, I would have thought I would just fallen in space. It was such a
Wow.
unique experience to see that much of reflection and depth in the water. It was quite cool. It was quite cool.
Yeah.
Now, again, I didn't get to see the horizon like you would Crater Lake, but it was that reflection life was pretty awesome.
That sounds fantastic.
Well, here, David, you're going to believe it or not, but our show is we're about 6 minutes left here. Any other studies you want to share real quick that you guys got coming up or that you're doing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think, any, those who are curious, just, I think doing a Google search of lake.com and, national park studies or cleanest lakes. We did cleanest lakes, dirtiest lakes, the stargazing, water sports, kind of best states for water sports.
And then as you grow lake.com, I saw, how do like homeowners get involved and put their homes on your site, or if vacationers that are looking at lakes, obviously that's pretty easy. The vacationers are probably the easy part to get, right? It's like how do you get more homes to list their homes on lakes.com?
Yeah, I mean, if people have a vacation home where you're thinking of generating some extra income, maybe you already listed on Airbnb, some of these other places. We've built some tools to kind of make a one-click import. There's even software that a lot of homeowners use called property management systems. It's kind of a way to organize it. We've integrated with all these property management systems that are out there. So we'd always love more places by the lake. Obviously, it just creates more availability for somebody who's looking to go on vacation.
Fantastic. Well, I want to get we end our show the same way for all of our guests here, and I really do appreciate your time here. But I can't do any of this without my sponsors, who help support me throughout the year. So if you give me just a second, our sponsor, Carson Valley, where we live, is our main sponsor. And so we have a short little clip here from them, if I can get it to play right here today. And David, just so you know, that is we're 20 minutes from my door. I can be at Lake Tahoe at the lake. And our stars here are incredible for night skies. So if you were ranking small towns next to national parks or big destinations, we'd probably have you on the list.
Oh, there you go.
Carson Valley,
I love the idea. People want to they want to be close enough for the day, but kind of have somewhere quieter. Maybe kind of not have as you say, like the crowds in the evening either. So great idea.
Plenty of open space here in the Carson Valley, which is why they're great sponsors of mine. Thank them a lot. So, all right, David, here it is. It's a personal time now. Okay, we're gonna get to know you a little bit. I have 3 questions I ask all my guests. It's all about outdoors adventure. You told me you like hiking and camping on your thing. So, we're gonna pretend that your bag is packed behind you. All right, you're gonna head to the mountains for the day. You got to get away from the Great Lakes. So you got to go to head to the mountains. All right, where are you going and why?
I'd probably go with Lake Louise in Alberta and like the Rockies. As a kid, we drove through there on a family vacation. We drove all the way out through Beartooth Pass, all the way down through the Sierras into Sacramento, and then kind of up the coast and back. And we did go through the Rockies on the way home in Canada, but it's considered the most blue lake in the world. I'd love to see it again.
Okay, that's a cool location that no one's ever said that. So I actually just did my first Canada vacation this last fall. My family and I went to Quebec and Montreal, so that was
nice.
I think, but my oldest son has done Lake Louise in the wintertime. So he's never been in the summertime, but in the wintertime he's done snow stuff up there. So
of course,
very cool, very cool. Well, I'm a big hiker, so I like to go outdoors quite a bit, backpack and hike quite a bit. And after I get done doing a big adventure, the first thing I'm looking for is a cheeseburger and fries, maybe a milkshake. I want some food to feed that hiker hunger. So our next question has to do with your favorite outdoor adventure meal, either during an adventure or after you get done a big adventure. What kind of food are you looking for?
Oh, I'd definitely go with after the adventure so I can cook a nice steak on the grill.
Nice.
And if the setting permits, eat it al fresco, eat it outside as well on the dining table or picnic table, what have you. But yeah, definitely an outdoor meal just to kind of.
Do you have a favorite steak cut that you like? Is there a cut that you go for?
Usually like a top sirloin, probably the go-to.
I like it. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Throw a little mushroom saute on that.
That's right.
Very good, right? Very cool. All right. And finally, we're all gearheads in some way or another in our life. I'm a gearhead. I take a map almost everywhere I go. That's my piece of gear. So what everybody wants to know is when you go out on your big adventures, whether you're on a lake, going to mountain, going vacation with your family, what kind of gear do you not leave home without? What's like your go-to piece of gear that you just don't like missing?
Oh, I'd probably say I have these two 500 milliliter Hydro Flask water bottles. I got two to try to balance out the weight rather than like one giant one. I actually hiked the Camino de Santiago the last couple of years, which is a 400-kilometer trek across northern Spain.
Yeah, my son wants me to do that with him. My youngest son.
Oh, you would love it. You would love it. I mean, you're walking kind of 15 to 20 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just you get in a rhythm day in, day out. And the water is probably, arguably one of the most important thing. The other one piece of gear, which I first hiked it with my then 18-year-old daughter, were these hiking poles. And she's like, I don't need these hiking poles. I'll be fine without it. And sure enough, as soon as you get into some of those muddy spots or going down the terrain, like it's, you feel like you have a few extra limbs that you can that are connected to the ground. So
as I get
between
older,
the water and the hiking poles,
they get more and more important as I get older too, and more clumsy.
Yeah,
so I love my hiking poles. The same thing. It's kind of funny. My mom found me a pair of hiking poles 10 years ago, and they've only got one adjustment on them, and I love them, but they're stuck there for so many years of use. But every time I go buy a new set that's compact down smaller and has multiple things, I always go back to those because they're just perfect. It's like, I gotta find that one set.
They're the right height for you. Exactly.
Right hand grips, whatever. So that is fantastic. David, I know 30 minutes flies by fast.
Yeah.
We excited to hear about lake.com. It sounds like a really cool venture. I love entrepreneurship. So congratulations on getting that started. Thank you for being our guest and sharing the insights on national parks and some of the outdoors and telling your story with our show today. So I want to thank you for that, and I hope things go well for you as the year continues.
Thanks so much, Charlie. The pleasure's mine.
And if you're listening to us wherever you're at, most of you guys, I know you're in probably California, you're heading to Lake Tahoe or the mountains to go skiing, Mammoth. We haven't had snow in a little while, so the snow's getting a little bit weak up here, but the mountains keep pumping it out because it is cold at night. Snowmobile trips are out. I've been snowshoeing. There's also just dry dirt on the eastern side, so you can go hiking on the dry dirt. Great time to hit Death Valley, snowshoe in Lassen Volcanic Park. And if you're listening to this is our show the week after President's Day weekend. Or Martin Luther King's weekend. I'm sorry, Martin Luther King's weekend. So the Free National Park weekend was just happened. So hopefully you got to get out and see some nature this weekend. And no matter what you're doing, we'll hope to see us in your future soon. Check us out at sierramagazine.com. Our next magazine comes out this week. Don't miss it. Have a good day.